The three most useless questions you can ask to figure out people's behavior or their decisions. What's up, everybody? I'm Stephen Cochran with Impression Management and creator of the Impression Leadership System. I spent a dozen years in the French Quarter in New Orleans in hospitality, figuring out how to break down leadership as a skill set and teach it to people. So today, what I want to go through is the three most useless, needless, not going to get you anything worth a damn types of questions that we end up asking people, thinking that they're really deep and profound, but it doesn't get you any answers that are actually going to help you understand them or help them feel like you understand them. So the first one is right. Now, this particular question has become kind of a placeholder in the English language. Now it ends up where the period normally goes at the end of a sentence. So we went through the training and you understand everything, right? This is all going, right? So this thing is not only useless, but it also tends to be annoying. Why is it useless? It is inviting an argument. What is the other person supposed to say in that moment? Let's just imagine you're training somebody and you get through the relevant information and all you give them is right? You get nothing. The only thing you're eliciting from them possibly is some sort of pushback. Like, no, that's not right. You put the listener in an awkward position. It's not going to get you any deeper understanding of what they're thinking, what they heard, what they understand. It's needless. And again, because it tends to be repeated over and over and over again in conversation now, it also leads to what I call habitual listening, where that's when you get somebody sitting across from you and they're just like, right? Yeah, right, definitely. Leave it out. Probably better to just use silence or ask a whole question. All right? Number two. There goes Spider-Man. Spider-Man must have his place. Right here, you're noticing a theme of Spider-Man. I'll explain that some other time. Second one is, why? Usually the first word in something like, why would you do that? Why would you say that? And this question of why is getting more and more popular because when it's used in the right place, it can be very helpful. Why is a good question to discover what drives you. Why are we here? Why do I want to do this? Very profound question. But when it comes to people's behavior and their decisions, why is the opposite of profound because it's not actually something most people can answer. Not only can they not really answer it for themselves, they certainly can't answer it for you because, first of all, there's an intentionality behind it. Why did you do that? Well, the answer can go back as far into their past as you want. Maybe they've developed habits since they were a kid because they were raised in a certain neighborhood by certain parents. Is that really the answer you're looking for? No, chances are you're looking for an answer that pertains only to the here and now. It's also a very difficult question to ask without sounding like you're accusing them of doing something wrong on purpose. Chris Voss was an FBI negotiator, and he wrote a really good book called Never Split the Difference. And he broke this down in a really helpful way. He says that. He says it's hard to ask that question without sounding like in this accusatory, you did wrong kind of way. So it's going to get, when someone feels attacked, what do? They defend. They get defensive. That doesn't lead you to understanding the behavior or the decision that they made. And so what should we do? Well, why is one of the classic detective questions. And it's the only one that we shouldn't use when we're trying to figure out what people think and how they came to the decisions that they did. So we use all the other ones. The who's, the what's, the when's, the where's, and the how's. We just leave out the why. Because all the rest of those questions leads you to actual solutions. So again, why is one of those things. It is useful in its place, but not outside of it. It'd be like looking at a map, pointing to the city of Berlin and saying, who is Berlin? It's not the right question. So take why out, ask solution-oriented questions. And finally, number 3, my personal favorite, and by favorite, I mean the question I hate most in today's world. and my handwriting is a little off. Does that make sense? This question is doing the work of 10 people to destroy our ability to understand each other. Because it turns out, does that make sense? As a question, doesn't really make any sense. Think about it. You're putting the listener, again, like we did with these other ones, in a very awkward position. One that's going to lead them to not give you any useful information. Because here are their options. Let's say that let's go back to the training example. You're training somebody, you've given them all the relevant information, and you finish off with, does that make sense? Well, here's what they can tell you. Either one, they're genuinely confused, but they don't feel like they should be because everything you said was perfectly good English. So they can then admit to you that they feel stupid. Not really something most people are going to do. So what are they going to say? Yeah, because they can always fall back on, well, it did make sense, but I just didn't know what you meant. And the other way that it's awkward is if they're not admitting that they are stupid or feel stupid, they have to tell you that you speak in a stupid way. Look at that. What a wonderful thing. The new manager, the trainer, the boss, whoever you may be to them, they get to tell you that no, hard as you tried, you are not a good communicator. They're not going to do that. They're just going to say yes. But then take the other side of it. Let's say you've finished doing or speaking about everything you need to, and they really don't have any questions. Everything did make sense. So they say yeah, and they're being genuine. Well, how do you know that the sense that they're making is what you wanted them to be making sense of? It doesn't make sense. What do you do instead? Run them through a short thought experiment. Extract this question from all training, all attempts to understand people, and leave it over here to die in a desert of ignorance. And instead, put in a thought experiment. When you're done with everything, tell whoever you're speaking to, look, I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Can you explain back to me what you understand like I'm a child? Because if you can explain things to a child, you really understand. When you can simplify complicated concepts, that's when you really are in the nooks and crannies of it. Or, if not a child, a friend who knows nothing about whatever it is that we're teaching and training here. Because then you can dive into the context. You're not just going to get the big picture things in the training, but they can help fill in some of the middle stuff. You don't want them to just hit the bullet points, because a lot of what we're really trying to teach them is the nuance. It's the little things that you've developed over the years that you've perfected your craft, and we want to carry them along for that same kind of experience. So none of these questions really get you anything worth a damn from people, and asked in the wrong way puts people on their heels and makes it that much more difficult the next time you want to have a conversation, training session, review, performance improvement plan, whatever it is. You will make it more difficult to have a real connection with the person you're working with if you spend time asking stupid questions that don't get you answers that they're either comfortable giving you or that you can make any sense of. As always, leave something in the comments if I was unclear. Oh, and by the way, if you insist on using a question like this one, because I know it's going to be a hard one to break, I want you to rephrase it, because this is what people really mean, I think, when they ask this. And it is, what conclusion did you draw from everything I just said? Try that one. I'll see you for the next one.